make the recordings available on YouTube. We were making them available on my ASQ through a link, and the people at National went through and swept them all into a trash. So the only way we can protect ourselves is with a little YouTube channel that we've made up that have our presentations. The slides are and the presentations aren't edited in YouTube. We don't have any of that goodness going on. It's just, what you've seen today. If you want to go back and re-review it or offer it to somebody else. And I will mail that link and the PDF of the slides when we mail the RU within a few days. I don't know. Greg, are you there? Do you want to talk through some of these things for us?
So I'm trying to unmute.
Hello? You're unmuted. I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. This is our leadership team, and if you saw the kickoff meeting last month, this is what you saw. We currently have myself as the chair. We have Eric Zink, who's serving as our vice chair. Jeff is here, but we are looking for somebody who can take the role of secretary. Our speaker tonight is our treasurer, Herman. And Don does a great job with arrangements and program. Membership is Jesse. And I think I said Eric does the newsletter as well. If not, I did now. And Nathan, if you're interested in any of these roles or interested in becoming more involved in the section, you can contact anyone really, but Nathan is our nominations chair. And that's our leadership team currently. And last month, usually we do a chair's message, but I felt that it was more important that we speak as a leadership team. So we really welcome your participation and feedback. I saw in the comments before the meeting that folks are wondering how many RUs are being given. And we have a formula given to us by the ASQ in Milwaukee, where they've reduced the RUs per meeting. This meeting typically used to have 0.3 RUs, and we're down to 0.1 per hour. So they're forcing that, and they really haven't made much of a I want to use the word dispensation, but that is kind of a religious concept to it. They haven't really asked anybody about changing it. I'd like to see us be able to offer more opportunity for our RUs, and we're kind of looking at that. Of course, one of the ways that you can earn RUs is to join the leadership team, and so Nathan will later in the slide he actually talks about that in these slides. So, and I say that in the need for recertification RUs. There are some things we can do. We could offer a pre-meeting topic, which we don't currently, but I've seen where sections do that, so we can. But that means, ASQ is only paying you for your time in terms of RUs, so we have to ask more of you as well. So to find out more about the section, you can go to MyASQ or talk to us if you don't have a chance to go out to MyASQ, but the link is located at the bottom of this slide. Next slide. So this is our schedule. Of course, today we have this cost or quality talk, which I think is awesome. That's really a great topic for us. And we already talked in terms of the rest of the program. Of course, we're going to have an in-person or hybrid. And we really need folks to make every effort to come to a hybrid or in-person meeting, because we spend more on meetings like that. And we need to see that our membership is interested in it. It also allows us to meet in person and do a little bit more networking. So I really encourage folks to make the November meeting a priority.
Yep, it's really a high-end speaker. She usually charges for her talks and things like that. And her topics are communications from an engineering and a quality standpoint. And like I said, you can go listen to her podcast. It's look up her name on Apple Podcasts. You can hear it. So I'd like to put out a good crowd for her, and we're doing um, I mean, the catering is not going to be bad. It's not going to be Thanksgiving dinner or anything like that, but it'll be a pretty nice spread from probably Zingerman's. And the location is very, very easy. It's at the corner of Washtenaw and Carpenter in Ann Arbor, and it's in the hotel conference center there at the Regent. So trying to sell that one a little bit. And tickets, the ticket link are on my ASQ. You go hit that, and you go to Member Planet. You put in a little credit card, and you're on board.
Very good, Don. The map is on the meeting announcement. Is that correct? Or the address and basically how to get there?
Yep. Yep. When you print the ticket, the address and a little map will pop up on the ticket. So it's pretty simple.
Sweet. Well, I hope, we're about a month out from that meeting, so I hope we can convince you that this will be good use of your time. And we used to hold meetings, in person quite often, more often than we do now. And I think one of the things is that, is again, it makes for a much better meeting in some respects. I've seen where many sections don't spend the money to do these things anymore. So we'd like to do that, and so we'd like to see you at the November meeting. And then finally, December 1st, we have a great topic, which is really timely as well. And as a reliability engineer myself, I'm really interested in this one, enhancing automotive reliability through AI. So I think we have a great lineup for this fall, and we'll be showing you some more upcoming. Again, this is our put together by our nominations chair. Nathan is here, and he wanted to talk about, since our secretary is really a key role. I don't think a lot of people understand everything the secretary does, but certainly makes the meeting run better, records the meeting in terms of minutes, and also is kind of like a co-chair in respects that looks at action items that the group commits themselves to and whether we're achieving them or not. So next slide. Okay. So this is more about the chair position that there is a role description for the chair if you're interested in reading about it. I think we can make that available to anybody on demand. Certainly it's good to be familiar with what you're getting yourself into. And this is really an area where ASQ can help folks develop their leadership skills. So that's our brief introduction, and I really don't want to take up too much more time because you didn't come here to hear me. You came here to hear from our speakers. So let's introduce our speaker. Okay. Well, again, as I said, our speaker is our treasurer, Herman Tang, and he's been working on this for a while to get ready for tonight. He's a professor with the School of Engineering at Eastern Michigan, and he has some other interesting in his background. You can read his bio there, and all this information, of course, is available on the WebEx, or the MyASQ website.
MyASQ. Yep.
So I don't know how many people get to the MyASQ website, but we send the information to you, but it's if you're ever like not sure about what's going on with our section, it's a great place to go. If you have the time and you can keep your password active. It was our past chair was telling me when I first got involved with the group about a year ago. So are we ready?
I think so.
All right.
I'm
Let's
making Herman the
pass the
presenter.
baton to Herman.
I did. And we got a participant from Orlando. That's fun. And we've got about 40 people right now, Herman. So there we go.
Thank you very much, Herman. This is great. This is a great topic.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, Greg. Thank you very much, Don. This is right now I can share my screen to make my presentation. All right. I think that you can see my screen. I think today's topic is about cost of quality. I think that is kind of a very interesting topic, and also particular for this topic. Right now, I'm developing this kind of a new frame, try to consider as a quality perspective, a little bit wider or more applicable to business. I think it's try to promote this quality management or quality professionals being more involved with the business decision, business kind of environment. So that's the reason why I kind of a subtitle is a link to quality to business through the COQ. Okay, yeah. I think that there's today's outline. I think just give a very basic introduction and then the review of quality, cost of quality models. That's very quick. And then try to introduce this new idea, new framework, how to consider this kind of quality as a part of business, particularly in the financial aspect. And then I can talk with what is the challenges or potential solution if we introduce this total quality, cost of quality model. Then I have a little bit more discussion. And again, this is a relatively new idea to me. And also welcome to if you have any kind of feedback, comments. I appreciate you can contact me, or later on I post this a presentation file in my ASQ, and you can put on your comments there as well. So this is my background. You can see my background is more on the manufacturing side. I spent over 16 years in manufacturing, particularly in automotive manufacturing. And this EMU quality management master degree program right now is my responsibility, and try to just give a very quick introduction, see if you are interested in, then you can contact me. This is a fully online program, and our students, almost every student in this program, they are quality professionals, already working in the field for 5, 10, even over 20 years. So it's a very rich learning environment. We can learn each other, not only from the textbook, but also from across the different industry, different sectors, and the different practices. And also kind of, if you already have as ASQ certification, I said you have opportunity to waive up to 3 credit hours to this master degree program. Just kind of, if you have any questions, you can contact me, or you can click the link, or you scan this QR code. You can see the details of the program. This topic, I think today is kind of a second time. It's about 2 weeks ago, I talked this similar topic, more focused on review of existing COQ models, and also mentioned very briefly the potential new development of total COQ concept. So that's kind of later on. If you are interested, it's the first talk, and then you can contact me, or you can log in the ASQ website. Then you can see there's a presentation file there. This topic is also related to my teaching and research at the EMU. You can see this dedicated class focusing on COQ. We call the CO quality 559. the dedicated. As you can see, for a regular 15-week semester, as you can see how many topics, what kind of area we are studying. The current textbook is the principle of the quality cost, edited by Doug Wood. As I said, it's a very good, very traditional, very well-known textbook. So this is a very basic information. If you would like to see the details, yeah, please contact me. So here is a very quick review, just in case you're not very familiar with these models or you didn't attend my presentation 2 weeks ago. So as I said, the very popular one, or maybe the most widely used COQ model is we call the PAF. This kind of just cover this the prevention cost, appraisal cost, and internal external failure cost. So this is so-called the PAF. This is very popular, has been there I think over maybe 5 or 6 decades. And the second one is called the process cost model. This one, we assume that everything we can simplify this simple model. We have a operation or system or just a major or key operation or a workstation. And we have an input, we have output. That's the kind of process we simplify as a model. And then we consider as just 2 types instead of 4 categories of PAF. The PCM is considered as a cost of conformance and cost of non-conformance. So here is kind of you can see input, you can check the operation steps or system, and also you can check output. Then you'll see all quality related costs as 2 categories, CON or CONC. But if we compare these 2 popular models, PF and PCM, you can see as a prevention is based on the PAF as prevention costs and the appraisal cost. Prevention is pretty much is kind of proactive, right? Planned and built in at the early phase in the system. And then we have also consider during the design phases, we also consider as appraisal and inspection functions, and also we conduct these appraisal activities during the operation. Right? And in internal and external failure costs, yeah, normally we just separate them based on the shipping point. Right? Before shipping to the customers, we consider as internal, right, under our control. And then after shipment, probably we have to have a third party or dealership take care of the quality concerns. So that's a kind of that's a PF. And then compare with a PCM, right? It's kind of they cover the entire 3 basic elements of the process. As this is to me is kind of user friendly to the frontliner or the front people, the production people, because on the production floor, we don't need to have a kind of too much detailed information. Let's say this cost is related to the good cost or prevention or appraisal, right? Or we have a kind of a bad thing due to from this quality issue. We call the non-conformance, right? So this is kind of 2 models. I think maybe most popular one is the PF, and also PCM also is relatively speaking is easier one. And also as a popular one, the popular discussion is the Takuchi function. I think we can have kind of a couple of hours to talk with Takuchi. And the basic idea is traditionally when we design, just a manufacturing example, right? When we design some parts of the components, right, we have a certain tolerance, lower spec limit and upper spec limit. Within this tolerance, everything's fine. Cost is minimal. And if beyond the tolerance, out of tolerance, and then we can have a certain level of the cost. That's a traditional view, right? You can see if your particular quality attribute is lower than lower spec limit, then we may have a certain level of cost. Right? No matter it's a scrap or repair or rework, so on and so forth. Same thing for if beyond upper spec limit, and then we have a certain level cost. Then the Takuchi, I think that he suggested kind of this curve, right? A quadratic curve. That's kind of challenging for normal or kind of basic applications because yeah, we need to have some kind of certain background to model this certain cost with this particular curve. And between this traditional, this kind of tolerance idea and the Takuchi idea, yeah, we make simplify as a linear, right? It's kind of at a nominal position or size or level. Then we consider it's a minimal cost. And then if off deviate from this nominal or target position or the level of situation, we have a certain that's going to be, relatively speaking, easier compared with the Takuchi function, right, to model this cost. The other topic I think a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned is kind of so-called ABC, activity-based costing. So this kind of this also compared with traditional counting practice. Normally, for example, for indirect cost, right now I'm just talking indirect cost. Indirect cost normally kind of assign or locate by functions, for example, maintenance or quality. That's the kind of that's indirect. And ABC is a more aligned to activities because a lot of activities related to quality. For example, if you propose, if you conduct a problem solving or continuous improvement project, you may use a certain resources, right? Then this resources usage is more related to your activities. Some project maybe use more manpower. Some project maybe use more, for example, time, so on and so forth. So that's kind of ABC is kind of more, generally speaking, accurate to allocate as a cost items. We can see which project is a more related cost. That's kind of a useful information for decision making. And I think right now we're just thinking as a limit existing PAF, PCM, so on and so forth. I think as a quality professionals, they normally working as kind of sometimes kind of very busy on the production floor, working try to resolve the problems, right? This is all related to the quality, all related to the quality related, for example, internal failure or external failure, so on and so forth. But I think in most cases, that's my observation, we didn't pay much attention on the impact of quality on other business aspects. For example, operation, for example, customer satisfaction, for example, market share. So that's the kind of right now I just try to introduce this kind of significance of this indirect, or we call the impact on non-quality fields or aspect. Actually, this idea is nothing new. Right? Back to over 25 years ago, this kind of right. This kind of that time he already considers indirect cost. For example, the customer incurred cost, dissatisfaction, reputation, and this opportunity, so on and so forth. So the idea-wise, I think it's kind of has been recognized over 25, 30 years ago, right? But it's how to get this indirect quality cost into our consideration. That's kind of challenging. So here is just to give an example, right? As if you're not really wholly convinced. Here is an example, it's a production throughput, right? As I said, the production rate for this example is a simplified example. The production rate is measured by JPH, job per hour. That's a production rate, right? So for a certain operation, for example, that's an average, normal is called, that's a 58.3, meaning it's kind of on the average. Sometimes we have a kind of fluctuation there, but on average, we have a 58 JPH for a long time. But if you monitor the details, you can see somehow this here is a quality issue or quality problem or defect happened. So they have spent, for example, certain time or the resources or even the process to reprocess, repair. So this kind of this kind of efforts will use this kind of existing resources for the production. So as a result, before the problem issue resolved, the operation production average JPH is 55.4, meaning it's kind of a quality is there, right? Definitely quality has kind of their own cost, for example, repair cost and scrap cost, so on and so forth. But here I try to emphasize this kind of impact on the production throughput. So as due to this quality, then we get a kind of a lower productivity or throughput. So this issue, I think, is kind of very easy to me. It's very easy to understand, very straightforward, but not really considered in typical cases during our problem solving or the project review or the activities, so on and so forth. So that's the reason why. So here is a basic idea of total COQ proposal. So total COQ or TCOQ actually is kind of three parts. One is the traditional parts or elements we call the direct cost of quality, including, for example, if using a PAF model, right? We have kind of prevention, we have appraisal, we have internal and external failure costs. They're always related, directly related quality. The second part, that is kind of interesting, is it's a way put on investment, right? On problem solving, so on and so forth. I think in some cases, you may argue, say, yeah, when we spend the manpower or technology or time, so on and so forth, into the problem solving, we may categorize this kind of effort or cost or resources into internal failure or external failure. That's fine, right? So this is kind of, but anyway, that's a kind of indirect, right? It's a kind of additional cost beyond this kind of just a failure, just quality issues. And I think that right now, I like to focus on the impact, particularly the impact on non-quality aspect of the business. So I think, again, try to summarize this basic idea. I think for the direct conventional cost of quality, we may use existing models, but it's up to you. You select PF or PCM. And for using one way deal with kind of indirect cost, particularly it's kind of resources or investment, I think that we have kind of existing tool, for example, activity-based costing for this particular one. Right? I think the challenging part is just the early example I mentioned. Right? So when we do have this kind of impact, reduced production throughput, but how we consider and related to our quality activity or the project, this is a kind of a challenging. So again, that's kind of back to our early discussion, or actually it's the real goal or objective. Why we need to deal or address this impact on the non-quality fields or aspect, because there's a kind of a connection between our quality. We are not a standalone department or function, right? We are not the people just sitting there waiting the problem happen, or some people call us, oh yeah, we have a problem on this area or line 8, right? We need to rush there to take a look and check and see what kind of action we need to take. And also, this is my personal experience, and also I had some kind of discussion with my students, with my colleagues. And sometimes, as a quality professionals, they feel a little bit kind of frustrated sometimes, one way propose is kind of very important based on our opinion, right? Try to improve the business operation or increase, for example, the quality rate, right? That's getting better customer satisfaction. We didn't have a very quick or active support or response from top management. Sometimes I talk with in a discussion, in a conversation, I would say this is kind of our challenge or question, right? We didn't have enough data to support how important our projects for business, right? If you can convince the top executives, say my project in the 1 year I can increase the real revenue or kind of a profit by such a number, for example, $500,000. Probably they will say, oh, that's very interesting. Let's talk. Let's see how, right? That's a kind of a that's a communication. I think we are, as a quality professionals, we are not using as quality attributes or kind of KPIs for our work, but also I will try to have this kind of a business language when we're talking with kind of executives. So that's the basic idea of the objectives, right? It's a particular focus on the impacts, not only the quality side, but also throughout almost a lot of areas of the business. Right? So in other words, kind of our quality cost, our quality activities, or the meaning or significance of a quality effort or continuous improvement, right? We can getting us a broader and more comprehensive to this discussion or to this in our daily operations. So here, just an example, right? When we have kind of, if you, for example, if a quality manager, and then some people have a kind of a certain very good at project manage projects proposals. I think the basic idea, no matter you have this flow chart or not, the basic idea is the very first question you may ask: is your project necessary for this operation, right? So I think the proposer, I think probably has to say yes and convince you that yeah, it's very important, very necessary. And then the following questions is going to both. One is a technical feasibility. It's doable, just a basic, based on our existing resources, based on existing technology. Your project can be executed and receive or reach your goal. Right, that's the kind of technical side. It's not really today's topic, but also as a manager, I think probably likely you have a certain limited budget, right, resources. Then you need to consider this project is necessary, but what's the financial benefits? You just kind of reduce kind of defect rates, or it's a scrap rate, or you have other influences on the other business. So here, I think definitely we need a kind of a economic or kind of financial analysis. Right? But I think it's kind of a normally the kind of a common practice is I focus how to improve the quality attributes, as percentage, first time quality, so on and so forth. But we are not very often to consider is a potentially or kind of actually we can predict the impact of your quality problem solving or problem solving project or continuous improvement project. What is the beneficial? What's the benefits? Right, it's kind of better positive impact on non-quality fields. Then I think it's going to combine this technical consideration and both direct and indirect analysis data. Then I think definitely you are in a very good position to make a very informed decisions. So that's kind of so in other words, that's kind of the key point here today. I like to mention that's just a more consideration, put more consideration here, right? Because the others, for example, necessity or technical feasibility or direct cost. I think the probably is already in your practice for years. But right now I try to see, oh yeah, this is kind of another open question. Right? This is kind of easy to say. I think probably you may say, yeah, this can make sense, right? But that's kind of we have challenges. Number one challenge is we have so many areas related to the business. For example, operation, supporting function, customer, market, employee, morale, so on and so forth, right? So one way thinking about this kind of a little bit kind of a broad consideration. This makes sense, but in reality, what we can do, right? When we're talking about quality, this is our primary function. Then we can talk in another business aspect. That's kind of a challenge. Plus, also we have so many different areas, right? So this kind of another challenge is kind of the indirect cost, quality of cost, or may say just the impact on non-quality areas. Most time, we call the hidden or not really very visible, right? Just like this iceberg. This is kind of very common idea. Say, oh, there's a lot of kind of impact there we can see. And the other challenge is measurability. And some people, when they're talking about the indirect or impact of quality on non-quality area or kind of business aspect, they use it's a word or terminology, say it's intangible. I think this word is kind of it makes sense, right? It's kind of, but as to me, is a little bit kind of negative because on the surface at the beginning, you may call it as intangible, but somehow I said later on, you could find a way to measure or even estimate, right? But this maybe not necessarily a direct dollar number associated with particular area of particular KPI, but I think that definitely you can build this connection between this particular KPI and the financial performance, right? So in other words, yeah, maybe it's just on the surface. And also sometimes some area, let's say, for example, right, the customer satisfaction, the data from satisfaction of customer satisfaction is not really immediately available for your quality now, right? The information you received is kind of maybe a few weeks ago, maybe even longer, right? What if you have kind of a very significant quality improvement? And then how to estimate, how to predict this improvement of quality satisfaction? This is a challenge because they may take a certain time, right? The other one is kind of that's also kind of a challenge when we in our conversations. When we're working with the different departments, that's kind of a challenge. For example, when you're talking about the kind of operation, it's beyond your quality functionality or the responsibility, right? We can ask the operations manager, say, I need your today's data, how performance, how throughput, how productivity, right? This kind of extra work for them. Sometimes they are sensitive to give you data, right? So that's very common based on my observation. Then if you're talking the finance or kind of accounting department, that will be not very easy to get their data as well. So this kind of a challenge when we have a kind of this little bit more global view on this quality, impact or benefits to entire business, when you need to contact different departments, functions, and then that could be a challenge. So how can we resolve this kind of if you accept this, oh, this is a good idea, but how we can overcome these challenges or issues? I think here is kind of my suggestion, focusing on only one area. Just early example, just for example, you just take care of the throughput, right? Because when they're working in the industry and our operation management or kind of senior management, very sensitive to numbers, how many you can produce the particular products. They monitoring every shift, every day, right? If it's up, they are happy, right? So it's kind of a common, but I think it's kind of if you consider this a production throughput is kind of a top issue for the operations management, I think probably you may consider this one only rather than the other areas, right? So in other words, kind of you'll try to find this a key area or topic, at least for now, this kind of executive really concerned, right? So that's the reason why it's kind of, when you're thinking about when I consider non-quality field or aspect of the business, then we just consider it as a major one rather than everything, right? It's kind of almost in practice, in practical, right? You consider everything. And then you focus on just the impact, right? So this can be additional work for you. Then you'll definitely still stay focused on your quality attributes, quality improvement, quality status, but also you address additional area of quality impact. So this is kind of my suggestion proposal, how we consider this one area, or what I call the subject focused TCOQ. So as the first thing, as we already discussed, we need to identify it as key area. For example, the production throughput or customer satisfaction, right? It's up to you, based on your business. And we can select just one KPI. Even in the one area aspect of business, we may have kind of maybe 5 or maybe 7 KPIs, right, using at the same time. But I think it's kind of which one you like to select. This is kind of another key consideration. Then when you have a KPI, you need to build a connection. This is a really challenging part. You need to build a connection with the KPI you selected and your quality area. But definitely you try to convince your management, say, because this is very strong connection. If, for example, my quality rate is increased by 1%, then your customer satisfaction maybe increased by, for example, 0.5%. That's the example. Then you can see this as a quantitative relationship. That's very easy to convince the other people, rather than just a conceptual, rather than just a basic idea understanding, right? And then because we're talking about the cost, we're talking about the financial numbers, volumes, amounts. So in other words, it's also important you translate your KPI, your connection into dollar numbers, right? So here is kind of just give a discussion example. Yeah, for example, just a kind of service quality, just an example. The first one we consider is kind of a focus area. And then we select market share, just the example, as a KPI, right? It's got a very quantitative number there. And then try to build a connection between market share and quality, right? So we call it just an example. For example, currently our customer satisfaction is this level and the quality is this level, If we, for example, if increase quality, service quality a little bit, and the market share would be a little bit higher. But as I said, if you significantly increase quality, then you can have a kind of you can see very significant increase in the market, the competition. Same thing, if you drop your quality, for example, very significant from 90 to 95, I'm sorry, to 90 to 85, then your market share maybe suffer significantly as well. So it's kind of a relationship between the quality. This is not really the sole responsibility for the quality professionals. That is you need to working together with customer satisfaction, the customer satisfaction data analysis, and also customer service department, so on and so forth. Right? They can build this connection. This is the key. Right? This once you have a team consensus, and then get this kind of relationship, you have very, very good foundation to continue to do this analysis. Then for the market share, and as I said, it won't be too difficult to dollarize that's a market share, right? They have a kind of marketing department, they have a number, not necessarily kind of open to the public, but that's they have, right? Then because you have such kind of relationship, then you can translate, for example, if your service quality from 90 to 92, then what's kind of equivalent financial achievement, right? So that's kind of basic ideas. And also, as for the on the production floor, this is another one is kind of maybe doable. This is a kind of simple template, right? You can then kind of see when we have a certain or just a major quality problem, right? Then we can have this kind of just a one pager. Yeah, just to give a little bit detail, right? Direct quality of cost of quality. For example, we need appraisal, for example, 2 minutes, and we have a kind of internal failure by 8 units. And then you have this read. You can see what is a direct COQ there. And also, as this kind of a common practice, yeah, it's not difficult for us. But if you go one step beyond as a quality consideration, I say, oh, I need to consider its impact. How much impact of quality, particularly this issue on the operation, right, on the production. So you can see, oh, yeah, based on the log or kind of a record, this particular quality problem cost 11 minutes downtime. But as I say, it won't be difficult. You can convert 11 minutes downtime to financial amount. And also sometimes kind of the quality issue is maybe not necessarily the major, but it can slow down, particularly for the manual operation, right? The kind of additional adjustment, so on and so forth. And then you could also estimate there, right? As also kind of this happened to me multiple times, yeah, many times. Kind of when we have an issue, for example, in the vehicle body shop, that may cause kind of a quality problem on the downstream paint shop and the final general assembly. So this again, this all, yeah, you can consider this kind of impact indirect COQ. Then you get a really total. It's kind of better as it's kind of a information for the senior management decision to say there's a quality, for example, we may have kind of $800 some. Then, but if you consider entire direct, indirect, it's over 3,000, right? So this kind of so again, direct, indirect in the total. And we do have a kind of see the challenges if you, for example, if you want to adopt this form. This is number one, I think my observation or feeling is kind of some people say, oh, you have additional burden or some kind of assignment, this kind of extra work for the people. And yeah, sometimes this number getting bigger, then people maybe feel a little bit bad, worse, right? And then that's kind of, I'm not sure that depending on the corporation culture, as you can see, how can you see that's kind of issue they may against some people, right? That's kind of some people hesitant to apply this particular specific dollar number or the kind of information there. So, but anyway, this is kind of discussion now, right? This is right now just kind of we need to have kind of further discussion. I just introduce this basic idea, basic concept, and also framework. Kind of see if it makes sense, and how can we can overcome the challenging issues. Then we can implement, make our. Here is another example. I try to use before we talk about market share as one KPI, but right now I just try to use this OEE. I'm not sure you're very familiar with OEE. Normally called overall equipment efficiency. Some people using a different acronym say it's OPE, overall process efficiency, so on so. But the basic concept of OEE is kind of they consider 3 elements: quality rate, availability, the system availability rate, and the speed performance of the system. So OEE is the product of the three elements. And let's just use an example for the discussion. You can see the quality here is a part of the OEE. So in other words, for the OEE, as a many kind of most kind of operation management use OEE as one of the major KPIs. And when using the OEE, then the quality definitely, because inside the formula, you can see the direct. And the system availability and the speed performance, the other two elements also can be affected by quality. Then they have also affected the OEE result. But this for the quality side is we call it's indirect, right? Based on our discussion, it's the impact on non-quality aspect. So this kind of definitely is kind of depends on your specific operation characteristic or context. So this is just kind of discussion, just an example, right? This is if, for example, if a quality change, for example, just a 0.10, then the equivalent $500, and the availability change just a 0.1% is equivalent $800, and the performance just a kind of 0.5% change is related to the cost of the economy relationship is about $100. So just an example, right? And here is kind of estimation. Yeah, as is the OEE is a product with three elements, but as is one is three elements are all good. For example, better than 90%. Then we can estimate. I have another research paper, particularly one we can. That's a quick estimate. That's the change of OEE is about the sum of availability change, performance, speed performance change, and the quality change. Right. And then if I say, oh, the quality direct cost is $500, right? But for the operation efficiency, we also have this kind of blue line, right? There's quality change, there's a direct quality cost, and there's two numbers are indirect cost of quality items. Right? The total will be a 14. So you can compare this number, just a kind of a hypothetical example. But it's this one total cost of quality is significantly higher than quality direct cost. Right? Just a discussion example. So this is I try to conclude today's talk. It's just a basic idea. This is we reviewed the typical or existing COQ models, right? But we may agree that they normally or typically focus on the direct quality cost. But today, I try to emphasize, try to convince you that the quality change maybe have as a significant impact in other areas, a non-quality area. But it's a kind of a challenging, multi-dimensional, very complex. Sometimes it's hard to measure, right? So that's a kind of basic idea of the total COQ. As is ideally, conceptually, is comprehensive, right? We try to bridge quality management activity and people with the business management. And also, because it's so complicated, so comprehensive, my suggestion is we just when we try to use this basic idea of the TCOQ, we try to focus on particular one area, right? That's kind of this is again as a kind of later on I will share this my idea on the presentation file and the API ASQ platform. Or if you are not a ASQ member, because you have to log in to see the file, and so you can email me. And this is kind of right now I try to convince you, oh, this is a good idea to try. And if you have a chance, as a probably you could build some case studies and try to prove or unprove, disprove this kind of these basic ideas. So again, as a kind of just kind of try to introduce a kind of some ideas. Hopefully, you are convinced or you agree with me, the basic ideas, and then we can working together how we move forward, right? Make this a more practical, useful, and beneficial to our business. And also kind of, this is my personal interest. You can see my area is kind of on quality, and also my manufacturer's two books published by Willie. So if you're interested, you can check in. This is my contact information, my office number, my email address. Yeah, you're welcome to contact me. Then we have as an individual or additional discussion. That's it. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, yeah, everyone for this opportunity to share my ideas.
Yeah, thank you, Herman. I've been watching the chat. I don't see any questions.
Oh,
So
no
we had
question.
we had 41 people here. So I got great presentation.
What happened? No question. That's too easy.
You did a
Too,
good job.
Too
You
difficult.
answered all the questions. Yeah. I got great presentation. I have thanks. We had 41 people tonight. Another thank you. Thank you very much. Agree that business and quality should be bridged. Great job.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This is if you like, definitely you're welcome to contact me with email. Right.
Yep. Yep, and we'll put the video in. If Herman gives me a PDF of his slides, I'll put the slides in. They go to the Ann Arbor section from my ASQ. There'll be a summary of what we did tonight. And then everybody that's online will get an email to the email that they use to register for the webinar that has the link to the slides, a YouTube video that is comprising this, and the link to the meeting next week. So that's what we've got. Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Yeah, I think one thing that cost of quality really needs to drive home is the actual expense to the organization. And I remember attending a cost of quality presentation a few years ago, and they talked about, this is maybe not related to your topic exactly, but essentially, through some physical means, like a shoebox equals $1,000, and giving people really a feel for how much money is being lost. A lot of this can be done on, different types of presentations, storyboards, what have you. But you really need to drive it home to actually drive people to take action by putting the dollar amounts in some visible way. I thought that was a good point, because I've had to do this kind of reporting in quality jobs I've had, and it's easily hidden if it's not put up there in the front. So I think that's one thing I think about when I think about cost of quality is, it's really it's a huge opportunity. And a lot of people have trouble coming up with an action plan. How do I attack this beast? Because if you reduce scrap, you can go through the flow chart you showed in the beginning, and you can come up with ideas, but you need to really roll up your sleeves. It's a it's a heavy task to do. Anyway, that's one comment I had. Just because it kind of goes back to what I used to when I was in reliability. The executives didn't really care about what Weibull distribution I used for coming up with wear out modes in the facility and what have you. They wanted to see how much money was it costing them. So you often have to, it's again speaking the language of your audience. If you're with technical people, you can do a lot of discussion of the technical ideas. But when you're talking about executives and managers, you really use money as a metric to communicate. What is the size of the problem? Are we in good shape? How much improvement can we make? So that's a comment I have.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
So just anyone else, but I know we're at the hour, and thank you for fitting it in with an hour. That's
Yeah.
a big challenge often.
We did have a question from Mark on the
Yeah,
chat.
go for it.
Mark's saying, do you see technology making comprehensive implementation more likely? For example, metadata tags with floor complaint notifications.
Oh, that's a great question. Just my personal opinion, I think the technology is including AI nowadays. It is very, very useful, very powerful, very quick, right? Compared with kind of human being work. But I think to me, right now, it's kind of we are not ready to implement this idea yet, because we need to have this framework, and then we can see what is the technical challenges there, what is the management or kind of culture related kind of roadblocks there, right? This is but once we figure out, for example, particular data analysis, particular kind of marketing or analysis, then I think kind of at that time it could be a little bit easier. We apply certain technology to some areas, then make our work more effective, more efficient. That's so far, because I also involve some kind of discussion related to AI. I think this is, yeah, this is kind of very kind of potential.
I think this question goes to how do you measure these things, and if you're like in a fast manufacturing operation, you may be getting data on a more recurring basis. In other words, every day, every hour, something on that order. Where a low volume batch facility won't be able to produce data through the computer real time. I think that's one issue. I like the question, but some of it's bringing the data out, from whatever management software you're using. If it can be automated, I guess is what I'm getting at. I think that's what the question says. Is there automation? I personally haven't experienced that of this type of data, but there may be others who have a different experience than I do, for sure. But I think it's a great question. What were you going to say, Don?
I was going to say I was a little Ford supplier last year, maybe 3 years ago, and they had extensive monitoring of the electronic assemblies they were assembling and testing. They had variable data. They were measuring, resistances and connection, voltage drops and things like that. Awesome, massive data in the overhead. The problem was when I tried to get it to do some analysis on a particular problem they had, I called it a write-only memory. They were writing all this data to a big flat file, but nobody had any ability to get it out or to analyze it. So, I think Herman's point about you need some kind of a tool or something extracts it and makes sense of it. There's probably tons of stuff that we're putting in there for automation that aren't being used because we can't make sense of the volume of data.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment, because you would expect, a manufacturer like Ford to have superior ways of doing this, but your experience may show that they have the data, they just can't get to it.
Well, yeah,
summarize it.
yeah. This was component assembly. I don't know. At GM we had a place called Android, and you'd get they were located near a plant. And they would take a console, they would take an instrument panel, they would take an HVAC assembly, they'd assemble them into a module, put them in a box, and ship them in line to the car, right? Well, this manufacturing place was taking all kinds of data about their assembly and their incoming parts, and they were putting in a huge flat file. They were doing no analysis with it. And then when we actually tried to find it to get a problem solution started, it was not there. I mean, we couldn't see the variation and the values coming in, and it was pretty sad at the end. So it's you know, my favorite chief engineer question is, okay, you're going to take all this data. What are you going to do with the data? You need to have a plan. If you're not making a plan to do anything with the data, just don't waste the money.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, obviously, we keep setting records for data in general. We're creating more data than we ever have before, but the quality of the data, which kind of goes up to, I was reading today, ASQ is a new specialty credential regarding data quality. So there certainly is we got another comment here, I think. There certainly is a reason, where, I mean, why are what do data scientists do? They make data useful. They clean it up and find ways to report it. Hey, Don, are you there, Don?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. So yeah, Mark's other comment was I'm automating data gathering on cost qualities, considering working with finance and IT. Don't have some strategic tags and labels. The data won't do any good. You'll end up with a big write-only memory. So yeah.
Well, I worked in
Mark-
small organizations, and you were the data source. You provided the data to management, and with very little support. So that's my personal experience. Again, I always welcome people to talk about, because I'm sure this is something, there are organizations have different priorities, and someone really needs to make this a priority. But when you see how much money is being wasted, then it drives, the investment that might need to be made in IT or finance.
Well, and Greg, the world you work in now, and the world I used to work in, we would predict that we're going to have a reliability issue at 80,000 miles on a vehicle. And we would often get the answer, we don't see that in warranty. Well, duh, warranty is 36,000 miles. And what we're talking about is, like Herman said, repurchase intent and brand value, and the fact that nobody's going to want to buy your car if it gets a reputation in the field for having not really early failures, because, things in warranty are kind of on the left end of the bathtub, but, you
Very well
shouldn't be
said.
in wear out with a lot of the things we're predicting. So, and that was pretty daunting to try and make a business case for fixing, and it was clear the product had reliability requirements. We were not meeting the reliability requirements, but the knee jerk was, can we see that in our direct expense and warranty? And you would have to go to repurchase intent and long-term viability of the product.
Okay, Mark says this sounds familiar.
So I think
Yeah.
we're good. Herman, are you Greg, what do you want to do as far as sticking around? Want to take a 10-minute?
What?
And then
Yeah, why don't we take a 10 minutes takes us to 7:23.
yep.
So that's fine. That would be fine. I don't think we're gonna have a long meeting. We're gonna have to have a discussion of what we're really working on right now.
Yep.
The one thing I'm looking at, which I found out today. Thank you, Mark, for coming and offering your insight. The thing I brought up in the email today was the budget and the expense plan, and I just started looking at it, and it's going to be hard to dissect in one meeting. But I thought I was behind. We can talk about this in the meeting. So why don't we take a 10-minute break?
Okay.
and reconvene about 7:24.
Okay. There are 23 attendees beyond the panel. You are all welcome to stay. If you want to be promoted to panelists so you can participate in the discussion, raise your hand. If you don't do so and you keep hanging in, you're not getting RUs, and I'm highly suspect that you started the meeting, went to have supper, and forgot to log off. So I'm suspicious. I'm being very cynical about some of this stuff. So yeah, you'll get the 0.15 RUs for the 5:30 to 7, and you're welcome to hang around. And when you log off the WebEx, you will get a survey popping up in another screen, but not until you log off the WebEx. So um, I'll watch the chat if any attendees of the 21 left want to jump into the leadership meeting, and I guess 7:24.
Very good. Thank you. We'll talk to you very soon.
Jesse, the member report you sent, the professional memberships, are those like I work for a company and the company's comp me, or is that something people are actually paying for? I don't know what a professional membership is.
Yeah, I got that from the data that corporate provides. So it's
Okay.
categorized as that. So I download the list and then graft basically charts.
I just wondered what the different categories meant. So,
Yeah, I also noticed this first time. Before we had like senior members, student members, corporate members, but this time they have this category, professional members.
Yeah, those are people that are paying the freight, the highest rate.
Oh, so that is the major category in our list then.
I can't remember all. There are other membership levels people can aspire to. And they're trying to do a youth movement a little bit, as you might have seen in your email if you were looking, but they're offering, I think, $99 memberships or something like that.
Yeah, student membership is less than other regular members.
So if we have some need to discuss that, that'd be fine. But I looked up, I first went by my memory because I've been involved with a couple student chapters, but officially all I could see on the ASQ website was Ferris State University. Although I know that's not true because UVM Dearborn has recently talked about, maybe they haven't completed their organization or what have you, but it came out on LinkedIn, I believe, about that they were forming a chapter section. Well, I can't remember what the right terminology is there. It's not section.
We didn't get
Branch, I
much.
believe.
Yeah,
But I had
student membership was always lower in our case. Like we tried when Cindy was with Eastern Michigan long time back.
Oh,
She was
yes.
on leadership team, and now maybe we can use Herman because now he's at University of Michigan. But students, they were for 1 year, then they move, or so then they will drop off. But not that we shouldn't try.
I mean, David, I've been seeing Don Brecken has a guy who wants to start a chapter in Ann Arbor and a student. And it's like a lot of things Don Brecken's coming up with. He thinks that Ann Arbor section would be a great place to sponsor it. And I got the guy's email, but I haven't responded to it because it's the don't leave your fingerprint on a shiny surface. So I'm afraid if I contact the guy, all of a sudden, it's an adoption process, and I can't take anything else on right now. So, it's kind of like the digital newsletter. Great idea. It'd be really cool to have a youth movement in this section, but I don't know who's gonna
Yeah, I
lead
mean,
it.
for that particular example, we do have folks that could be leading that. Certainly, I wouldn't expect, everyone kind of contributes their ideas, but we really should have somebody whose name's associated with, for example,
Yeah,
a student
yeah.
chapter.
I haven't. That's I don't know who's. Couple people seem like they're. Hey, you got this kid's email. Why don't you respond to him? Well, I don't know what I'd tell him because I don't know what our sponsorship or relationship model would be. I got the setup. There's like a procedure from Milwaukee that says here's how you manage a student chapter. I kind of read it, but I didn't want to read it too deeply because I have no interest in taking it on. So, we've got the
Yeah,
guy's
I
content,
understand.
we've got the process, the how to. It's just how do we move forward?
Has David come back?
I am back.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point, Don. I don't know. You know, it's kind of funny that Ann Arbor is lagging Dearborn, but you know that somebody's taking. I don't even know the people who are involved in the Dearborn branch, and I don't really know. I know that Central Michigan had worked with Saginaw Valley, but I think the only one that's officially, you know, on the ASQ website is. And I didn't mean to start out this meeting with student
Oh, no,
branches,
I'm
but
sorry. Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay. I just don't want to get. It's a great topic, but Don in Grand Rapids, Breckenridge, right?
Yeah,
Bracken, Brecken.
Yes.
I'm thinking a little town up by Midland, but
Yeah.
in any case, he's done everything with Ferris State. Apparently, he's done it right because at least they've gotten recognition on the website.
Yep.
So I imagine he'd be a good resource. You know, if somebody wants, you know, I was looking at whether I made our organization too small. I put down the ones that were actually active. We do have several areas within this group that aren't, you know, we're not really making progress on, or we don't have one person who's pursuing it, that type of thing. So anyway, it is now 7:32. And I sent out an email this morning to ask people if they knew what we needed to be working on or what they were working on, and I did get one response, and that was from Eric Zink, who could not be here tonight.
Hey, Greg, I don't
So
think I got that.
who's speaking? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. This
Is this
is
Nathan?
This is Jeff. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
I don't mean to. It's just one of those things that you didn't get on the CCA or something. So we'll
Okay.
make sure.
Maybe others also are missing it. So
Honestly, I wasn't sure whether we were going to have a secretary person here tonight or not. That was my
Greg, this is
confusion.
Nathan. I don't think I got that either. I didn't recall seeing anything.
Okay, well, I got one email from Eric, and I can send it to you folks.
Okay, all right.
But you didn't get my email. You should
Your
got my
email from this morning that you mentioned.
Yeah, okay. I apologize for that. I believe I included you on the distribution, but if it somehow
Yeah,
didn't get to you,
maybe there's something filtering it out, or maybe I'm not looking in the right place. But
well, that's something I typically do because you know, I don't know what everybody is working on all the time as much as I maybe should, but I want to try to catch up with everybody. Certainly, the day of, I understand that sometimes people won't get to it, so it'd be better if I did it sooner, no question. So apologize for that, but we'll have to work out the communication issues that we have. So I'm here, Jeff's here, Calvin's here, Herman's here, and I saw Laura's here earlier. I don't know if she's still here. I don't see her on the list. Okay. But doesn't matter. So we have, excuse me. We have at least 2 officers. And we also have Jesse, Don, Herman, of course, in a committee chair position as well, and Nathan. I'm looking at our roster. We had 2 members at large. One of them is more or less resigned from that. She no longer wants 10. You know, this is her Is that Laura? No, it wasn't Laura. In any case, the other one was Tom Strong. We've not heard from him
I think
as
it
well.
might have been Melinda.
Melinda, thank you. No, it is
Melinda's
Melinda.
past chair, and she was kind of retiring. So
No, I think she sent an email. I hope everybody got that email, but I think it was in the spring. She said that she was, or this summer she was planning on leaving the group. So I've taken her off the list. If people, come back, or if there's additions, I hope there are additions. I hope Nathan hopes there are additions, but they
Yep.
that's where we're at. So I've currently got on our list, I've got our officers. Our officer list is due. I'm going to just cover this from the top of the document to the bottom. But our officer list is due at the end of the month, October 31st. So we've got a secretary we need to submit as well.
And this is for next year?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
If you Gregory, if you don't get, and I mean, I always encourage new people, and secretary is a great way for a new person to come into stuff. If you don't find anybody, you can put me in for that if you need the name,
Okay.
because I will still be around.
All right. Well, that's good to know. I mean, we really need, one thing I learned from this is, don't want to make this too anecdotal, but Dallas Fort Worth said, officers are officers, but committee chairs, you can actually have more than one person involved. So, that's one way to approach getting new people in, possibly, is to say, hey, you don't have to be in charge of this thing. You just need to contribute. And, like I said, I don't know what, we'll deal with that down through the agenda. But I do have, I have Eric as our newsletter chair. I have Jesse as our membership chair. These are no changes. I have Don as our program and arrangements chair, and I have Herman as our education chair. And of course, I have Nathan as our nominating chair. So I realized that those are the only individuals that I had put on the slides for the kickoff meeting. Didn't include members at large or other things like that. But in bottom line is we do have a quorum for tonight. Does everyone agree?
Yep.
And so I'll check that box. Anyways, right for now, I'll take notes, and then we can, Jeff, if you wanna officially send them out this month, that would be great. If I could send you my notes and you could update them with whatever
Okay.
you have.
Okay.
And then we could.
Yeah. And I had said that I could serve until the end of December. The issue is that my membership has lapsed, and I don't think we're supposed to have officers that aren't members in good standing.
No, I think that's been done in the past, but I think ASQ is putting their foot down a little bit with that. So I think that's accurate. But the areas that we don't have, of course, and just use this as an example, Jeff, but like voice of the customer, it was something that we had on our list, but we didn't really do much with. And you were that person as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, for a couple of years, I did some work with that. I worked with Tom Strong, but yeah, I couldn't do both.
That predates me. I don't think I've ever met Tom, unfortunately. But anyway, I'm just getting to areas that are still open.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we could list more open than just secretary. The other one was website chair. And I think the problem website chair, as Don's alluded to several times, is there just is no how to do it. The training isn't there, and there's just some things where ASQ has given us the systems, they just haven't told us how to use them.
Well, and I threw a little fit on the email the other day when they decided that I couldn't set up event tickets. Nobody knows. By the way,
Oh, I saw
everybody
that
blames
email
everybody
chain.
else. Nobody knows. But yeah, so I got a meeting set up next week to talk to what's her name, one of the component relations folks about the fact that my ASQ, WebEx, and the ticketing system in Member Planet, all three use different interfaces, and they all have to do the same data 3 times. So, or I do anyway, when I set up a meeting that's live, and then so complaining about that and saying, and by the way, there's some issues with the my ASQ. You can't put in 2 links to make it apparent that, hey, we're having a live meeting opportunity and then also a WebEx. So I got a meeting with her next week to talk about it, but it's just that it's a total pain, and it's kind of like the newsletter thing. Because as soon as this meeting wraps up, I'll get an email from WebEx and it'll have all the people that attended. I will put Herman's slides in the recording. It's just a bunch of crap that has to get double and triple entered. And I'm going to describe that to the woman who's my component relations victim and say, can we do anything about this? Because it's really, really awkward. So yeah, the website well, it'd be nice if somebody was really, really good at it and could teach us, but I don't know if there's anybody like that. So that was what that
It would
was.
certainly be nice if there was some resource in ASQ that could shepherd an individual or group of individuals on how to do that, because they really said that's the only way, the acceptable way. They don't allow sections to have their own websites any longer. So it seems like there's a gap there. Anyhow, I'm saying we called to order at 7:32 a couple of minutes ago. Trying to go be a little bit more pay attention to the process. And that's something the secretary helps the chair out with, and I appreciate Jeff's wanting to do that, because that's,
And Don, it looks like the meeting is still being recorded. Do you mean to do that?
Don?
Yes, I turned the recording back on when we started our officer meeting. If we don't need it, I'll shut it off.
Yeah, I don't have a reason to. I'd rather people speak candidly if that's
all right. I'll just shut it off.